What's up, everybody? What's going on? Today on the Lead From Here podcast, we're going to talk about managing somebody that's in their first career job. It's an interesting challenge, and depending on the person, you could have no trouble and they'll just go off, and you have a ton of trouble because they just don't understand what a job really is. And this has varying levels of impact and varying levels of nuance because, again, like depending on the experience that person has outside of their career, it can be very different. Like for me, I had been doing freelance for 3 or 4 years before I got on my first development team, and so I hit the ground running. No problems, no really issues, just kind of started writing code and didn't look back. Now, switch that on its head to somebody that never had a job growing up, took a computer science course, probably did some random projects here and there, but nothing really specific to what you're doing in your job. Now they're in a job. So not only do they have to learn the technical part of it, you also have to learn the social parts of having a job because they've never had a job before. So like, hey, you got to be on time. Hey, if we work remotely, you need to check in. You need to have your camera on. You need to, do all the things that show that you're engaged. You need to engage in meetings. You need to make sure you're hitting your deadlines. Make sure you're doing the work that needs to get done. On top of communicating, talking, especially if you're remote, making sure on your Slack or Messenger or whatever you're using to communicate, you got to make sure that you're doing that. And if you're not doing that, or you're not confident enough to do that, it makes it look like you're not doing anything, or you don't know what you're doing. That can be a problem. That can ultimately impact your report's ability to really find their footing in the job, build the trust of their team that they can get the work done, and ultimately it could stagnate their career or get them fired. And it's something that is important because you can't hire all seniors. Like, that's just not how a company works. Like, you have to have your seniors that are linchpin people, and you have to have the people that you're growing. When you're growing those people, if they've never had a job before, it can take a lot more time than you would expect. And it's necessary. It's very necessary because you can't, like I said, you've got to make sure you have a bench of players that can come in and be that guy if senior person decides to retire or they get a job somewhere else. You have to have that backlog of people to step into those roles, to grow into opportunities. Or maybe that senior gets promoted to a people leader. Now they can't write code anymore. Who's going to fill that spot? It's very complex, the way you have to approach all of your seasonality that comes with employees, because especially if you're like in a company that hires a lot of contractors, that can roll over a lot. So making sure you have those linchpin people that can kind of fill those gaps when those contractors aren't there, it's key. And honestly, like building people from the ground up is the best way to do that because they're gonna, 1, be more loyal, 2, they're gonna know your system better, 3, they're gonna be kind of entrenched in your process because that's really all they know. So there's a lot of positives to it. So the negatives, like I said, it's very social cue type things, emotional intelligence, and then understanding just the basics of a job. And hey, did you make sure you told HR that you were going to be out for more than 2 weeks because you have to take short-term disability? Hey, did you, you're in this meeting with all these people, did you say a word? Did you unmute at all? Did you show your face? If you didn't, you actually hurt your social credibility within the group and also your technical credibility because they don't hear from you and you're the new person. Even if it's not, just ask a question. That is what I always coach my new employees to say is like, ask questions. Even if they seem silly, just put your voice out there. Let them know you're paying attention. Those are the things that will ultimately, over the long run, help you. Don't ask the same questions over and over again, but that's what it looks like to manage a first-time report. So overall, it does feel like a lot, but I promise you in the long run, it's worth it, and it will pan out. If you build that person correctly, they will have a lot of loyalty. They won't stick around for forever. Nobody does. But it will put you in a position where you have a solid bench of people that are, bought into your company and your cause and your product. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully this was helpful. Kind of all over the place a little bit, but it is very nuanced. And I think if you guys want to talk more about that, hit me up on any of the social media channels. Hit me up an email, jason@leadfromhere.co. Don't hesitate. And if you want to dive more into other opportunities and real world scenarios, please hit me up. Pull those together. We can talk about them. Appreciate everybody's time. Take care.